Hello, I'm John Coleman from ApocatastasisInstitute for the Humanities and Alternative College and High School here on New Milford, Connecticut, USA. The purpose of this broadcast, as I change the bubbles, is to find out what's in our cabinet. And we're being joined by Mrs. Kathleen Prescott. This is episode 261. I can't believe I've had so many great interviews, a few of which have been done with Mrs. Prescott over the years. What's in our medicine cabinet? That's the proper title. And we are looking at the topic of homeopathy on this 261st show. And we'll have all sorts of occasion to learn about some upcoming seminars that Mrs. Prescott is putting together with the Institute in the so-called spring semester, kicking off in January. And you can find the website for this upcoming series of discussions here, including a short promo video and a little poster having all the who, what, when, where, how, and a little bit about Mrs. Prescott. She'll tell us about herself momentarily and some appropriate homeopathy articles. So everything to get you situated about this upcoming program. And please God, we will have occasion to build this out in years to come. And by the way, speaking of God, the bumper music, so-called, was the Rorate Caeli. We happen to be recording this on Amber Wednesday in Advent. So that is the introit for today, and a very notable piece of chant it is. With all that being seen to, I'm going to get our heads on the screen here. And whilst I'm doing that, Mrs. Prescott, welcome, and tell us a bit about yourself and how are you this December morning?
Hey, Mr. Coleman, thank you so much for having me again. It is freezing over here in the East Coast, and I hope whoever's watching this is slightly warmer than I. But other than that, it's a good day, and I'm really excited to be here and talk about this. So who I am is really not much, which should motivate a lot of people, I hope, because I'm a mom. I'm a homeschool mom, and I'm a mom who's happened to successfully care for medically and medicinally her children for the last 25 years successfully. They're healthy kids, thanks be to God, without pharmaceutical involvement. And I mean minimally, so minimally have we taken advantage of pharmaceuticals. There is a time and place for it. I just don't believe that the average mom, the average family, the average person needs to go running off to pharma to get treatment. I think that we have this innate power and ability and should have knowledge to take care of ourselves with our resources, to know our resources. And that is where I've utilized homeopathy more so than any other holistic or nutritional supplement in order to do that. So I really want to share that with as many other families, moms, individuals who are interested in kicking some of those drugs out of their medicine cabinet and utilizing some of the things that I've found extremely effective over the years. As a homeschool mom, I love educating, and so I really appreciate this opportunity to get on your beautiful platform and provide a little bit of education in this department. And I do actually have, long time ago before I started homeschooling, a background in nursing and healthcare. So that, while I abandoned it early on, almost 20 years ago, because it just wasn't the niche I was looking for, I am definitely thankful for being able to utilize that in my family. But it's not necessary for anyone to have a background in healthcare and medicine to utilize the options that I'd like to talk about.
Great. Thank you for that introduction, Mrs. Prescott. And indeed, we will have all the nuts and bolts about your class here. But as we're getting our hands on homeopathy and some points there too, I wonder if you could distinguish for us mainstream medicine, what I might call Rockefeller medicine. You've already alluded to pharmaceuticals. I think properly it's called allopathy. If you can distinguish allopathy or mainstream so-called medicine from homeopathy, that might be a good place to set out from.
Oof, that is a really good question, and really kind of stumping. While it's so clear cut and so simple, we take it for granted. So putting it into words is a really, really big challenge. So thank you for giving it to me. This is new for me. I didn't actually contemplate that for myself. Again, something I just take for granted. So allopathy is what, if you're not familiar with that word, it's what we all consider to be medicine. The guys in white lab coats, in facilities that, like the hospital or the doctor's office, medical practitioners that are using pharmaceutical medicines to treat. And alternative medicine, or now I think a lot of people are referring to it as functional medicine, or holistic medicine, or Ayurvedic medicine. All of these terms are floating around out there right now. And basically, it's anything else outside of that box that has the pharmaceutical stamp. And it tends to be a little bit more naturally sourced, meaning that they're not synthetic versions, they're not patented or owned or reproduced. These things are of natural origins. Could be anything from, although homeopathy does utilize some actual drugs. For example, nitroglycerin is made into a homeopathic called glenoinum, and some of us know nitroglycerin to be a heart medication. Ironically, anything that someone would be suffering from in the event of a heart attack, glenoinum then cures. So while some of them come from medicinal substances like that, most of them are either plant, mineral, or animal. So like supplements, vitamins, herbs, botanicals, it is very natural and has very almost no risk and very inexpensive. Unlike supplements, herbals, botanicals, homeopathy is medicine. It is made in a lab by pharmacologists. It is regulated by pharmacopoeias. I always trip over that. So it is a lot closer to allopathy than most holistic medicine that we're used to, and why I consider it to be the optimum replacement for pharmaceuticals. Vaccinations, antibiotics, even some surgeries and pain medications for your average everyday acutes like colds, flus, anything you would grab over the counter in CVS, well, even though CVS sells supplements too, like Pepto-Bismol or an aspirin. Homeopathy is an excellent alternative for.
Excellent. Thank you for that. It certainly does hit the nail on the head there, distinguishing the two. And we'll have another show, no doubt, down the line. We could lay out the history of allopathy or Rockefeller medicine, and it actually parallels so-called modern education. Actually, both of them have to do with John Rockefeller, but again, we'll save that discussion for another day. It's enough that we know what it is, and we now know what homeopathy is. So, Mrs. Prescott, I see we have some slides queued up here. Would this be a good time to get into some of those and see some of the people who have supported this modality in the past?
Excellent. So I just wanted to share this screen with you. This is a quick Google of famous advocates of homeopathy, people who have furthered the use of homeopathy. I don't know if you know, the creator of homeopathy, the founder of it, was a German medical doctor named Samuel Hahnemann in the late 1700s. But really, it was met quite fiercely with opposition by a budding allopathic practice of very heroic and violent treatments that were coming of time, that he just, as a medical doctor, he just couldn't be part of. He couldn't stand to see the violence from which his fellow practitioners were practicing. And so he met that with the opposition of homeopathy, which is known as a very gentle and natural, slow, and long-lasting effect of medicine. So we are really thankful to a lot of bigwigs who have come in and furthered homeopathy when it might otherwise have died. So here we have Mahatma Gandhi and Queen Elizabeth II, Paul McCartney, David Beckham, Cher, and Tina Turner. And I don't know who Usain Bolt is, the fastest man the world. He must have been a Guinness Book of World Records.
He was in the Olympics, maybe 1 or 2 Olympics ago. Black fella.
Aha, okay. And Catherine Zeta-Jones and Mark Twain. So I love this list because it's all over the place in time and space. And one underlying thread, I guess you could say, is that they all have money. They all have prestige. And isn't that funny and very true that it is the ones who have opportunity, so to say, to reach outside of the norm and grab onto alternatives? That has been the case with homeopathy. It is the wealthy, it has been the famous who have grabbed onto homeopathy when allopathy didn't, and so the peasants didn't. The middle to low class, the low socioeconomic groups really were subject to whatever was handed to them. But the people with money have opportunity, and so they're able to take what they want. And if we follow their lead, we can see where they're going. In history, many of the famous faces have grabbed onto homeopathy. I love the story, I have to tell you this, of Mozart, who actually named a composition of his after his homeopathic doctor because he had been treated by allopathy many times and was left for dead. So I forget the name of his. A quick Google would show it to you, but the name of this homeopathic doctor was like, I can help you. And he was like, I'll try anything at this point. And he did end up saving his life, and he was very open and honest about that. He said, I owe my life to this man, and his next composition was dedicated to him in thanks of that. So we see this a lot in homeopathy, where people wouldn't have touched it if it wasn't for brave individuals who are at death's door, or wit's end, if you would call it. So I love Joette Calabrese, who's a well-known homeopath online for educating moms and families on the use of homeopathy in their homes. And she often says that people do not come to homeopathy willingly. They come crawling, they come begging, they come dying, because they've tried everything else and it didn't work, or they were left maimed. And then homeopathy has a great reputation for picking up the pieces. So there's just a little background. Most of the faces that you'll see were in a similar situation.
Great, thank you for that background there. And if you need the screen share going forward, just holler, and we have it queued up in the bullpen down below there. But yeah, it is really interesting. just trying to make similarities here, but also to notice some differences that, in my wheelhouse of history or education, you have different modalities. In either instance, you have different types of historical analyses or different types of educational approaches. And certainly with history, you can switch them out depending on the need, almost like a tool. With education, you need a bit more or a lot more stability for that. But when it comes to medical topics, one of the things I've noticed with certainly with Rockefeller medicine or allopathy is, and I see this with people in my life, it works. But once you're on it, once you're on the conveyor belt, and I don't mean just on the insurance, I'm not even talking about the bureaucratic conveyor belt. I'm talking about, once you start taking the pills and once you're plugged into the system of care, it does work, but you become almost imprisoned in it, because if you get off some of these pharmaceuticals, for instance, they can have tremendous psychological or physical damage. It works as long as, almost like a drug dealer, it works as long as you're on the conveyor belt. But if you get off, it can have tremendous ramifications. And it's interesting, and we can have another philosophical discussion some other time, because there are some deep energetic or spiritual principles here. It's interesting you mentioned that naturopathy or homeopathy rather, it has this elbow room that it does not make you this slave of this system, but rather for the victims of this can help pick up the pieces. And it seems to have a bit more elbow room compared to the so-called mainstream medicine, where you are really locked in. And we're not even talking about the financial bureaucratic aspect. And we're talking about the care aspect. You are really in that system. So much so, and you might know this if you did any hospice stuff in your training early on, but so much so that these people in the allopathy and the mainstream medicine, they will say, well, grandma broke her hip. Okay. And we have a chart and it says, well, she'll be dead in 9 months. And grandpa broke he broke his shoulder. And they have it. These people, they have it like calibrated. It's all just chemicals for them, and not just chemicals and treatment. Their whole perception of health is truly materialistic. And anyway, it's interesting, just in your last rejoinder, that this homeopathy has this much more wiggle room. It's much more natural in that regard, and there's something deeper, I think, to all of these observations.
That's such a honest comment, John. It's 100% true what you say, and a very good analogy and analyzation. Although dark, sad but true, that is probably maybe one of the most beautiful points about homeopathy that you just yourself zeroed in with a magnifying glass in. When we make a choice for medicine, and I just want to quickly quote one of my favorite, can you see this? I keep this on a card, and
Hold that up closer. Hold it up closer. There you go. Now, tell us about that. Nice handwriting there.
Oh, thank you very much. This is a card I love to keep on my desk. My desk is right in my office, where I keep most of my holistic medicines on shelves, easy to pluck. And I put this there for all of my family members to see and remember. Sir William Osler's beautiful words. He says, the person who takes medicine must recover twice, once from the disease and once from the medicine. And that could not be truer. We all know it. We just don't like to think about it. And sometimes while it's in there, we don't bring it to the forefront in our decision making. So I like to keep this up front and center, this quote, so that I remember it every time I go to make a decision to make medicine. And why is this important right now? Because of what you just said. If you choose to take advantage of allopathic medicine, it may band-aid, it may cover up the symptom that you're suffering at that moment, but it has zero promise of cure. And you will likely have to stay on it long term, if not suffer from the effects of that long term. For example, every time we take an antibiotic, that's only a 7-day term, about usually. But then it completely wipes out our gut flora, and we end up suffering from like indigestion every time we eat pasta with marinara after. We have no idea why that's so bad. And then we have to take a Tums, and then now it just keeps rolling into this big snowball. So the beautiful thing with homeopathy is people say, oh, can it really promise to cure? It can, and it does every single day. But let's get away from the word cure, because that invites a lot of negative attention. What homeopathy really does is it stimulates the body's natural reaction to rebuild. And so all of these medicines that we're choosing homeopathically, we're actually enriching and enabling the body to exist independently, where allopathy is doing the exact opposite. It's making the body subsist as a dependent upon these things. And that is why insurance is absolutely necessary to take advantage of allopathy, because you need so much of it. And it's very expensive because it's patented and created and has to be sustained. And so it costs money, although we don't feel it because, the insurance is taking the brunt of that. Homeopathy is known to be extremely economical. And you're going to be shocked if you've never tried it yourself or picked it up locally. I want to literally show you quickly another screen share. Well, this is the one from Mahatma Gandhi. He says, homeopathy is the latest and refined method of treating patients economically and non-violently. Want that word. Economically and non-violently. That's it. That's all we can. There's the end of it. But he continues that governments must encourage and patronize it in our country. Late Dr. Hahnemann was a man of superior intellectual power. Samuel Hahnemann is the founder of homeopathy. And means of saving human life, having a unique medical nerve. I love how he talks. I bow before his skill and the Herculean and humanitarian labor he did. His memory wakes us again and year to follow him, but the opponents hate the existence of the principles and practice of homeopathy, which in reality cure, so there's that word, his word, not mine, a larger percentage of cases than any other method of treatment. And it is beyond all doubt safer and more economical and the most complete medical science. Oh.
And that was Gandhi, you say just now? That quote? Okay,
Yeah.
Grand. Yeah, there is something very interesting. And I don't think it's accidental that you have this very restrictive type of modern so-called medicine, this allopathy. And one of the things that lets me know that there's something up is that you have to build as a society, we, whatever, have to build this whole structure of tremendous complexity around it. I mean, we're recording this on top of Connecticut, which is literally the world center of insurance in Hartford. And this is the nerve system. And you have this whole machine, which is very interesting if you use that language of the machine. If you think of the time in the 19th century when this so-called medicine got off the ground, they're thinking the Industrial Revolution, everything's a machine. And we still use this language, right? What do they say? My lungs are bellows, my liver is a filter, I have a circulatory system, God help us, my heart is a pump. All of a sudden we started using all this mechanical language for our bodies. At the same time that we have this system. And it's, again, very interesting that we have to build these social systems of great complexity, a great obnoxious aspect to them. And You may want to respond to any of that, but the point that I want to bring this to is when we compare Rockefeller medicine, Mrs. Prescott, with homeopathy, I wonder if you could also speak to the role that the individual plays, because it seems one, despite all the complexity, all the obnoxiousness, all the foibles of modern medicine. I knew a girl when I was growing up. the the doctors, I'm laughing, it's gallows humor. The doctors left like implements in her mother, and the mother died because the woman had a surgery in New Milford Hospital, and they left tools inside this poor woman, and she died and got sepsis, and then she died. And yet, why do we keep up with this? Okay, it's brainwashing in the media. Okay, it's custom and tradition. Okay. But part of it, I think, is it's easy in the sense that it's easier to get the pill. So I wonder if you could speak to anything I've said heretofore, but also in particular to the role in homeopathy of self-care, of upkeep, of a pound of prevention is worth an ounce of cure, compared to this system of the quick fix, even though the quick fix is 10 times more obnoxious.
That's such a good point. I love your points. It's crazy how right on point you are every single time. I don't know though, because it is unreal how simple utilizing alternative medicine is. I've done it my whole life. I grew up in a holistic family who just didn't. My grandfather was he owned a vitamin shop. My mother just grew up using food and vitamins as her healthcare. She's 80 years old to this day. She's never touched a single pharmaceutical. So it's easy and it's not expensive, but we think it is. So I can't really say, although, yes, I love your term, the conveyor belt. They have planted us somehow in a societal conveyor belt to where we don't even have time to think about it or make a choice. I believe if we realize that we have a choice, we wouldn't choose that. But we're on this belt that's just moving so fast, we almost just fall into it. It's like, wait, who do I go to? I don't know what's wrong with me. We do have to go to the hospital to find out what's wrong. And before you know it, they're already putting you on this prescription, and you're saying yes to all these tests, and there's just not a minute to think. And it's not ingrained in us anymore by our culture. I think that culture, it used to be a lot more women were home cooking a lot. And so the first thing was food. Food was the number one prevention. We hear this term, Jewish penicillin. You ever hear of that? It was like if you had a cold, the first thing you were doing is some old lady down the street was bringing you a pot of soup that was made from bone stock with sea salt to just suck all that marrow and collagen from the bones. And so they knew in a century past much more how to utilize food than we do today. In this pre-made fast food society where, I mean, you're amazing if you're cooking today. So there's that. And the second thing is money. So we're extremely poor and we don't have a lot of resources. So am I going to go out and we don't have a lot of knowledge? We're not being educated by our mothers as we grow to here, take this every time you feel this and keep up on your vitamin C every day, or it's winter time now, we need to take our vitamin D. None of that's happening anymore. So that's what my mom did for me when I was growing up. So I was a lot less likely to run off to the doctor every time I had a drippy nose, where today, if an infant has some snot in its nose, it's a pediatrician's visit. And the pediatrician needs to do something. I mean, the parent's literally going to think he's a crap doctor if he just says, oh, he'll get over it. Just go home and keep the air humidified and give him some vitamin D and C and he'll be fine. She's going to be like, what do I need you for then? So they feel obligated to do something. And I have a very good pediatrician. He's a German doctor, and he always says, well, I can give you an antibiotic if you'd like, but to be honest, he will get over that himself. So when I have gone into my pediatrician to get his opinion, I love that he's so honest with me, and that's really helped. But I don't know that so many of them do that anymore. So I guess my answer to your question is we don't have the education, we don't have the background, the culture in our community and in our home life to know how to sustain ourselves. And then we don't have the money to then go in and make an uneducated decision when you look at shelves and shelves of CVS of supplements. Well, is that a crap supplement or is it a quality supplement? Who knows? Do I take C or do I take D or do I need both? Those are $30 each, that bottle. Now I'm spending $60. I don't even know if I hit the nail on the head.
So I'm going to really date myself here. And some people here will recognize the expression Robert Conquest 3 rules. And those of you who hang out in conservative land or the alt-right or whatever will recognize that name. He's been lately dusted off. He was a commentator back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But Conquest says these 3 rules of politics, which don't concern us. But I have a few rules myself where you always know something's up in this system. And one of the ways you can tell that there's some hanky-panky going on is something you addressed earlier, Mrs. Prescott, to this allopathic medicine, is that the people who are fed into this system don't realize they have an option. It's just presented as the only option. And you could make very similar comparisons to our electrical grid, what we've come to call utilities, and the legal system, and the education system, so-called. And they all have these. This is how you know these things are, first of all, they all have a similar genesis, some of them literally in the mind of John Rockefeller or whatever demons was inside that man, like the education system and the medical system. But there are other things as well. Everything, that's one of the rules I have is you can tell this system is unified because it all has the same monopolistic aspect to it in all parts of life. And on top of that, with kind of my historical background, the loss of knowledge in the 19th and 20th century, folk knowledge we might call it, is something that's scarcely a thing to be grasped by us. The loss and lack of cultural knowledge, medical knowledge, and so many other things that were just preserved in these communities all across the world were so disrupted by industrialism, by urbanism, and certainly by the world wars and all of the changes that I can understand why some people, there are some wacky theories out there about history, about, the world's only 200 years old. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying I understand that line of thought because there have been so many disruptions, including with medical knowledge, that this folk knowledge that was preserved of what plants to take, what remedies that there are. This has all been lost because of the recent history. It really does seem, and I'm using that word carefully, it seems there was a reset, not in the way that some eccentrics are saying it, but we have lost so much. And it's interesting, to an earlier point, you had mentioned the so-called famous people, or people with Riz, as they say now. The slang changes all the time, but people with clout, whatever. It's very interesting because you can also see that in the past couple hundred years where something's been lost in society, cultural knowledge, like medical knowledge, has been lost. Mm-hmm. And then oddly enough, it almost has to be artificially restarted. And there are some interesting political movements in the last century. And that opens up all sorts of discussions. But that struck me too, that in my own knowledge and my own interests and so forth, the things you're bringing up are these real deep sociological and historical aspects. You're talking about medicine here, but it fits in to so many other things, which helps to confirm, I think that we're on the right path in terms of what's gone on in our society and how do we get back to, in this instance, a much more healthy healthcare system.
Yeah, I do that, and that's a big purpose of the big reason I want to do this with you is because I want to just basically dump for anybody who wants to have an alternative, an option that's going to be approachable to them without any education and without any money. So that is why I think homeopathy is like Dr. Robin Murphy, author of the 4th edition of the Materia Medica, a phenomenal guy. He just passed away recently. God rest his soul. Amazing medical doctor who said it's the medicine of the people. It should be in the hands of of moms, mothers, and others, not practitioners. So that's why I'm trying to advocate for people who don't have the resources, or even if you do, but it can be down to anybody, a mom. And that's why I want to, and homeopathy is taking a little shift. Okay. There's this term I just want to throw out there, classical homeopathy. It's been physicians early on. Homeopathy, you would think it's some sort of home remedy. No. Like, this was started by medical doctors and used by medical doctors. And they had the top of the line educations. So this is anything but a home remedy. Then it evolved into practitioners, specialists in homeopathy, usually had additionally either a degree in medicine or naturopathy. But now we have these homeopathic practitioners. But I believe that that's also the reason why many of us haven't grabbed onto this into the past, because it's still expensive. It's still inconvenient when you have to go and you have to utilize out of pocket a professional to cue you on how to use this. That's changed completely with homeopathy veering towards what is now being called genuine homeopathy, modern homeopathy, or practical. And Joette Calabrese's words, she calls it practical homeopathy. And Robin Murphy, forget what he called it. I think he was the one who called this modern homeopathy. No, he called it clinical homeopathy. The version of homeopathy that can be used in the clinical settings by someone who doesn't have any knowledge of homeopathy, whereas before you had to go to school for years. And that is all thanks to a family, 150-year generation of Indian doctors, the Banerjees. That's pretty well, although Banerjee is like Smith in India, I hear. The name Banerjee is as common as Smith out here. But the Banerjee doctors are responsible for making homeopathy usable to the average day nobody who knows nothing, with the institution of what we call protocols. And that's something I want to go over in our discussions in the future, so that anyone could walk into a CVS, and yes, now thanks to them, it's available into these pharmacies in the US and in the UK and in France and Canada, who are making combination remedies of homeopathy available on CVS counters. So the average mom, family, or individual can walk into a CVS and pluck that oscillocossinum instead of Tamiflu. There's just one I'm going to give you right there as a little sneak peek into our discussion. If you've ever had the flu, and I have had the flu, it does feel like death. I almost considered taking Tamiflu and then read the box. And that encouraged me to look up online, and I was like, okay, I'm going to die if I take this anyway. So might as well die of the flu than to die of Tamiflu. So I decided to weather the flu, and that's when I learned about oscillocossinum, which is a first 48-hour homeopathic, what do you call it when you jump in and intervene? Intervention. That's what it is. It's a homeopathic intervention for flu, and it is so effective that almost anybody. So here you have an over-the-counter flu medicine that is so effective. Almost everybody knows about this anymore. It's by a company called Boiron, which is a French pharmacy that now has manufacturing in the US. So this is like a godsend. This is turning people off of Tamiflu because it's so effective, it's so fast, and it's so cheap. You can get these 36 doses, I think for, what does it say here? $30? This is $33 for 36 doses. It's not even $1 a dose.
Absolutely. Compare that to even Tamiflu or even more invasive, stronger things out there. You're not going to get that for such inexpense.
And effectiveness, like it's effective. We hear safe and effective, safe and effective. We all know how truly safe and effective someone somewhere has always suffered something. So not the case here. I mean, it is so safe that accidentally and this is another thing for me, like I have to have stuff in my house that, like, I'm busy. I got 7 kids. I'm trying to homeschool, run a business. Like my eyes are not everywhere. And once my toddler broke into my medicine cabinet, and thank God all I had in there was homeopathy, because she downed all these little sugar pills and absolutely nothing happened. If you do not have this symptom for this homeopathic remedy to correct, it can do nothing. Absolutely nothing. So where if I had even had a Tylenol, an over-the-counter bottle of Tylenol in there, she could have suffered liver damage. I could have been in the ER having her stomach pumped. So it is that safe that my toddler could eat all my little remedies and be absolutely fine. So I also want to mention for that specific remedy that I just dropped on y'all, that oscillocostinum, you don't have to buy that in 33 doses. You can buy that in 6 doses for, I think it's $7, and you could buy it in 12 doses. So it really depends on whether you're running out and buying it for yourself, or if you wanted to keep it in your family in stock and you have family and you want to keep. I honestly every time I've taken oscillocostinum, I have never taken more than 3 or 6 doses. So that means that to get over the flu effectively cost me $3 to $6. That goes back to what Mahatma Gandhi said. Extremely effective, potentially curative, and economical. I mean, you could say economical 1,000 times over. Nothing hits home like $3 to $6 to get over the flu. And it's not piling up 3 to 6 vitamins and having to take them each 2 to 3 times a day. And then you're lining up your pill bottles and swallowing them on an empty stomach that's making you burp up nasty, smells and senses. And, or maybe when you're so sick, you can't swallow a thing. I mean, if you have a fever, swallowing pills can even feel really laborious and just make you feel so sick, where these are like little tiny sugar pellets. They say a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. It's so true. It doesn't matter if you can't even handle a drop of water. These little pellets melt under your tongue. Like, it's just so doable. Kids don't bucket. I can give my kids this medicine without them. No, I don't want it. So it's just that easy for absolutely everyone. Everyone needs to know about it and use it on some level. That's why I'm here.
Great. Thank you for that, Mrs. Prescott. And before we knock off and we learn about your class and what's coming up there in terms of how to enroll and so forth, I know there was one more person you wanted to mention. So as you introduce himself, I'm going to get the screen share queued up and take it away. You have the stage there.
Thanks again, John. Yes, I don't know if everyone knows how much John loves to honor the dead. And what do you often say, John? Those dead guys who wrote those books, he loves to know about them and he loves to recognize them like they're still here. So for that reason, I wanted to bring up Sir John Forbes, a medical doctor. Why? Because December 17th, today's date, is his birthday. So God rest his soul, John Forbes. It's his birthday today, even though he's from the late 1700s and died mid-1800s. We're going to honor his birthday today with listing what he said about homeopathy. So here it is for you. He said, "It is utterly impossible to disregard the claims of homeopathy as an essential form of practical medicine." He said, "As a great fact in the history of our art, we cannot ignore it. For not only do we see all our ordinary diseases cured homeopathically, but even all the severer and more dangerous diseases which demand by the common method prompt and strong measures to prevent a fatal issue." And that's quoted from the Homeopathic Record, Volume 1. And I want to just reiterate again, he is a medical doctor, and he is the one to say that homeopathy has the ability to cure. So today, the word cure is only reserved for allopathy, and I'm just a mom. So I'm going to use the professionals, the medical doctors, the allopathic wisdoms themselves to say what I've experienced in my life. So in honor of John Forbes' birthday, I just wanted to quote him there and say that I hope some of y'all join John and I in our upcoming discussions on what's inside your medicine cabinets and how we can replace it with practical homeopathy.
And down below in the description is everything one will need to know about Mrs. Prescott's course coming up, and the who, what, when, where, how. Now, just to be clear, Mrs. Prescott, is it now looking to be just a couple seminars, or is that only in the instance that so many people don't sign up? So is the full class as it's laid out, is that still going ahead if so many people sign up, or is it for this first rollout just the 2 or 3 sessions?
So right now we're going to, because our 2 courses are actually, I am just tutoring, so to say, those 2 courses, which are copyrighted and created by renowned homeopath Joette Calabrese. So we would have had to purchase her courses in order to run them together. And that was at a cost. So to avoid that cost, because as we know, most of us, cost is a thing. Unfortunately, it's totally okay. I've decided with your cue, so thank you for that, to switch it up into 2 mini modules of just free discussions where we can kind of open the doors a little bit and get started, because it's essential that we do that. And we shouldn't be limited by some funding that's not there. So these are going to be free. They're going to be just 2 single discussions. I think we have each semester of the course in the 2-part course kicked off on a Monday. Was it Monday? You can remind me, Jen. Was it Monday, January 5th and February 16th? I was thinking of taking those 2 dates and running a single 1-hour discussion.
Great. Yes, those are the dates there. And so we'll all make note of that. And who wants to sign up? It sounds like the doggy wants to sign up there in the background. We even take humans, non-humans, and they're all welcome. But who wants to do that? We'll head over to the website down below on ApocatastasisInstitute's site, the subsite. And then there's a very easy to fill out RSVP form. Just put in homeopathy and whatever message you want to sign up for that. And it's going to be a very, very interesting and insightful couple of sessions there. So everyone ought to consider it on top of all sorts of material we have to consider from the past hour together. So to the audience, thank you for your attention to this. We have a lot of stuff coming up in the new year. It's going to be a very big year for Apocatastasis. A lot of structural stuff is happening behind the scenes, funding-wise and whatnot, to take the next step. Our staff and collaborators are growing. We have Mrs. Prescott here. We've had Miss Ingrid Dunn from Argentina signing up for Spanish classes. We have R. Michael Fisher with his Fearology study. We'll probably lasso Dr. Fetzer for another conspiracy course and all sorts of things. So we're going from strength to strength. And part of that is patronizing things like Mrs. Prescott's class. That's to the audience, and to yourself, Mrs. Prescott, thank you for hanging out here and bearing with the technological troubles and giving us your insights on practical homeopathy.